Sharon Tong. Welcome to In Parliament. The recent dispute involving the spring cleaning of two hawker centres in Bedok, which come under the Aljunied Hougang Punggol East Town Council, was the highlight of today's sitting. Environment Minister Vivian Balakrishnan stressed that it is the Town Council's responsibility to conduct cleaning of all markets and food centres under its charge, including all common areas. Also, that costs are to be fully borne by the Town Council, as they already collect monthly service and conservancy charges from the hawkers. But in the case of the Aljunied Town Council, it had asked stallholders to pay for the cleaning of high-rise spots in the hawker centres when this should not be the case. He said earlier statements made by the Workers' Party's Sylvia Lim and Pritam Singh to deny this were false and untruthful.
In the minutiae of the to and fro, I'm afraid the key issue of integrity has been obscured. The problems arose in blocks 538 and 511 in Bedok North because the Aljunied Town Council, A, denied its responsibility to clean the high areas of the hawker centres and markets. B, tried to levy additional charges on the hawkers for doing so. C, failed to clean Block 538 properly. And D, prevaricated and made untrue statements to conceal this.
Dr. Balakrishnan also pointed to meetings and email exchanges between the Town Council's property manager, Mr. Tai V. Shan, and the hawkers. He said Mr. Tai had tried to impose additional charges on 3 occasions.
Subsequently, the hawkers repeatedly asked Aljunied Town Council by email to confirm whether they would clean the high areas. Mr. Tai V. Shun refused to give the hawkers a direct answer. Instead, he responded 3 times. 3 times by email with a stock answer. Let me quote his answer. Quote, "Spring cleaning is a practice set by the NEA, not the Town Council. As such, we advise the Merchant Association to liaise with the NEA directly on the requirement." In other words, he was telling the poor hawkers that this is not the Town Council's responsibility. It is NEA that imposed this requirement. Go and ask them.
This whole confusion started because of an email from an NEA official on the 7th of February. And in fact, if he looks at that chain of correspondence, he will see that the Town Council staff were asking NEA to confirm the dates for the scaffold erection and dismantling. And the reply that came back was that the Hawker Association would be making arrangements with their own contractors for the scaffold erection and dismantling. So how is the Town Council supposed to read that? I mean, is that something that the Town Council is supposed to be blamed for?
Ms. Lim added that as far as their investigations went, Mr. Tai had not asked for extra money to be paid to the Town Council. This prompted Dr. Balakrishnan to issue copies of a dossier to members of the House. It included a quotation issued by the Town Council's contractor, which Dr. Balakrishnan said had irregularities.
First, the hawkers have never asked for a quotation. Mr. Lau has met the hawkers. They have told him the same thing. Secondly, ATL Maintenance Private Limited is your own contractor. When your own contractor issues a quotation for $7,200 to the hawkers, asking for payment for work which you say is already covered by your contract, that amounts to a demand for double payment for the same quantity of work. The third point that's irregular with this quotation is that don't be taken in by this claim that the Town Council was confused. If the Town Council was confused, read carefully this quotation. It says, scope of work, provision of manpower, equipment, materials, chemicals, insurance, and supervision for the cleaning of entire premises consisting of 40 market stalls. If the town council was merely confused, this quotation would have said erection of scaffolding for access to the ceiling. It will not be for the entire scope of work. So this mysterious quotation shows that something was not quite right in the town council and the way it was handling its contractor and the relations, the engagement between the contractor and the poor hawkers.
Dr. Balakrishnan said when the hawker centre was closed for 5 days, it resulted in loss of income for the hawkers. He felt all cleaning should have been carried out within that period. Workers' Party Secretary General Lau Tia Kiang noted there seems to be a misunderstanding over the issue of spring cleaning and annual cleaning.
Spring cleaning is conducted quarterly, 4 times a year. Annual cleaning the high-rise area of the market once a year. So if the town council is obligated to clean also the high-rise area in the spring cleaning, then the question is, how many do you have to clean? I've not spoken to Mr. Tai, and this is the first time I read all these things, but I gather that's how it came about, because of the spring cleaning. The next issue about the ATL quotation, it is a puzzle, and I'm trying to find out who actually asked them to quote. Obviously, people asked him to quote, and otherwise they won't quote. But there's nothing to do with the town council. The town council has not asked them to quote either. What happened? I don't know. But I'm very certain the quotation has nothing to do with the cost of the cleaning the high area of the market. It is not. This is my understanding of the whole issue.
Dr. Balakrishnan then urged Mr. Lau to undertake a thorough investigation of what transpired on the matter.
We can discuss all the minutiae that Sylvia wants to, but the simple crux of this matter is what did Mr. Tai say and what did he fail to do? And to me, that is very clear. And because that is very clear and backed up by evidence, I find the denials, the public denials, by Ms. Sylvia Lim and Mr. Pritam Singh very, very troubling. Let me make this further point. Politics is a contest for power. But the key principle when you have power is don't take advantage of people under your charge and always be honest and upfront with your people. All of us will make mistakes. But when a mistake is made, just come clean and say so. But don't cover up. That's why I have not let this go. Because it is not about cleanliness of the ceiling. It is about clean politics. And I appeal to you, because I know you to be an honorable man. I appeal to you, go back, do a thorough investigation of what's gone on and what's gone wrong in your town council, and put it right, set it right. I have confidence that you will do so, Mr. Lau.
Singapore laws will be changed to strengthen government oversight of key financial benchmarks for interest rates and foreign exchange. Recent investigations showed that 133 traders from 20 banks in Singapore had tried to rig the benchmarks between 2007 and 2011. The Monetary Authority of Singapore, or MAS, is consulting the public on future changes. MAS board member Lawrence Wong said there will be both criminal and civil sanctions against such rate fixing.
Like other major jurisdictions, the setting of financial benchmarks in Singapore is not a regulated financial activity, as financial benchmarks are typically developed by the industry in response to market needs. We have so far relied on industry self-governance of this activity.
Police have taken action against 55 people involved in an illegal protest at the Malayan Park on 8th May following the results of the Malaysian elections. Giving an update, Second Home Affairs Minister S. Iswaran said authorities are reviewing actions to be taken against another 4 people. Mr. Iswaran said all those investigated for involvement in the protest are foreigners.
I want to emphasize that while foreigners are welcome to work or live in Singapore, they have to abide by our laws. They should not import domestic issues from their home countries into Singapore and conduct activities which can disturb public order. especially as there can be groups with opposing views here. Those who break the law will be dealt with firmly, and this may include termination of their work passes or visas.
Mr. Iswaran also said that foreigners, be they politicians, social visitors or workers, are not allowed to use Singapore as a platform to conduct any political activities which contravene Singapore laws. He was replying to non-constituency MP Lina Chiam's query on whether foreign politicians are allowed to conduct election activities here after former Johor Menteri Besar Abdul Ghani Othman had visited Singapore during the Malaysian elections in May. Mr. Iswaran said foreigners, including politicians, should avoid actions that could be misconstrued as had happened during the Malaysian elections.
In line with this, any application submitted by a foreigner for a permit under the Public Order Act will be assessed largely based on whether the proposed public assembly or public procession involves foreign politics or has the potential to harm domestic peace and public order. Firm action will be taken against those who contravene our laws.
Acting Minister Chan Chun Sing says his ministry would like to partner more voluntary welfare organisations to help abused women and children reintegrate into the community. Mr. Chan said this in response to a question by MP Christopher D'Souza. He said the ministry would also like to provide the necessary support networks within the bounds of confidentiality. The ministry funds 4 shelters run by voluntary welfare organisations for women who have been abused domestically.
With many of these territories which are belonging to SLA, the leases are coming to an end and the territory is being used for some other development. So my question or my request on behalf of these organizations is whether MSF could facilitate an appropriate rehousing of these shelters so that the charity's work can continue, notwithstanding a short lease.
Yes, certainly, because the services that we provide for many of these vulnerable families indeed needs to be on a sustained basis. So we certainly will need to relocate them and help them to continue to provide the services to the families in need, even if for whatever reasons the SLA or URA requires to repossess the land.
Moving to the issue of maintenance for elderly parents, Mr. Chan said the number of elderly parents taking legal action at the Tribunal for the Maintenance of Parents has fallen. Mr. Chan revealed there were 110 applications in 2011 and 84 applications last year. Mr. Chan said the default rate of maintenance orders is also low at 5 to 7% over the last 3 years. Annually, about 300 elderly parents seek maintenance from their children.
It's interesting to note that there's been a low rate of cases over the past few years that have been reported to the tribunal. I would like to ask the acting minister whether this is a reflection of the general family-friendly environment that we now have in Singapore, or the success of mediation at family services centres, or because of the perhaps the societal shame of wanting to bring a family issue into a public sphere.
I can put it down to about 2 main reasons. One is because over the years we have cleared the stock of the stock of people who may need such services ever since we implemented the rule. The other reason is really because mediation has over time taken the bulk of the load, and over time I think the more cases that have been successfully dealt with through the mediation route, and that is our preferred route.
On rental flats for low-income families, Senior Parliamentary Secretary Mohammed Maliki Osman stressed that the HDB automatically waives any rental increase for 2 years if household income goes above $800.
To the question of whether what happens to the individual if the adult child chooses to buy the flat, what happens to the parents? Of course, we hope the whole family goes together. It gets the family household. And we hope the child can help to support the parents also. So when they buy a flat, I think they have to look at the long-term implications. Long-term implications is whether the child can continue to live and co-live with the parents and support the parents in the new flat that they should choose to purchase.
Senior Minister of State for National Development Tan Chuan Jin says the government's priority in managing Singapore's stray animal population is public safety. A range of measures are used, including removal of the animals, sterilisation, working with animal welfare groups to rehome suitable strays, and as a last resort, humanely putting down strays that cannot be rehomed. Authorities are supporting 2 pilots for rehoming cats and dogs, Project Love Cats and Project Adore.
The ministry can also review the adoption criteria of stray dogs, such as the weight, the size, and even the breed, so that more strays, such as stray mongrels or crossbreeds, can be rehomed, freeing up very critical space that the shelter currently have. They actually run in full capacity at this point in time.
There'll be those who are comfortable with pets and there'll be those who are less than comfortable. So we need to create a common space so that people are comfortable. I think that if this project can succeed and it moves forward, it allows a greater capacity for strays to be rehomed. And I think this would be an important step forward in terms of making sure that we manage the stray population.
All private bus operators can participate in the tender for the 9 city direct bus services that the Land Transport Authority rolled out last month. Minister of State for Transport Josephine Teo said the move is to tap on their existing resources to improve bus service levels. She was replying to nominated MP Teo Seong Sing's question on whether the upcoming tender will be extended only to competent private bus operators, excluding related companies of current public transport operators. Ms. Teo said these operators may have existing buses and drivers available in between their other assignments, such as ferrying school children or workers, and the aim is to contract them for the required bus services.
If a company meets the tender requirements and can offer commuters good service at a competitive price, there is no reason why it should be barred from taking part. This includes companies like ComfortDelGro Bus Private Limited and Bus Plus Private Limited, which operate separately from the public transport operators, even if they are related. They have different management structures and are run by different personnel. Like other private bus operators, they have their own fleet of buses, providing contracted bus services for school children and workers, as well as shuttle and premium bus services licensed by the Public Transport Council.
Health Minister Gan Kim Yong says his ministry will announce measures to help reduce the cash outlay for outpatient treatments, especially for the elderly, progressively. This also includes greater flexibility in the use of Medisave and is part of the ongoing healthcare financing review. MP Lee Bee Wah had asked if the review will consider expanding the use of Medisave for outpatient CT scans and MRI scans.
In deciding on which procedures to allow for Medisave use, we need to strike a judicious balance between helping our people defray the out-of-pocket costs of outpatient treatment and preserving Medisave to help patients pay for larger hospitalization bills.
I would like to ask Minister, when will the review be completed and the result be known? Thank you. Because the scanning nowadays it costs quite a lot and the residents feel there is quite a strain on their pocket.
We are working very hard and we will announce as soon as we are ready. And some of these measures may be announced progressively over a period of time. It need not be a whole package waiting for the last bit to fall in place. As and when we are ready and as and when the schemes are being worked out, we will announce them accordingly.
The Health Ministry also says any public health risk to Singapore due to the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus infection remains low. Parliamentary Secretary for Health Mohammed Faisal Ibrahim gave this update when asked if there was any emergency response plan to deal with such emergencies. Associate Professor Faisal said various precautionary measures are in place to cope with the possible emergence of this infection. They include health advisory posters at the airport to alert travellers. He added that as of 5th July, a total of 51 suspected cases have been investigated locally since January 2013, and all have tested negative for the virus.
We have also stepped up our operational readiness in the event of an imported case. For example, we have put up on standby the Home Team NS Pasir Ris chalets as possible quarantine housing from 17th of June this year. MOH is also in contact with the WHO and our overseas counterparts. and will monitor the situation closely.
Over 40 buildings in the central business district, Marina Bay and Orchard Road to City Hall shopping belt are connected by underground pedestrian links. Notable pedestrian links include those at buildings around Orchard MRT and commercial areas at Tanjong Pagar, City Hall and Raffles Place. And in Marina Bay, all buildings are required to have basement-level links to adjacent buildings. Senior Minister of State Lee Hsien told Parliament that URA administers a cash grant scheme to encourage owners to build underground pedestrian links between existing buildings, but the take-up rate remains low.
Apart from the cost of constructing the links, which the scheme seeks to address, owners may prefer to retrofit their buildings to incorporate their links only when the buildings are being redeveloped. Some owners may also be concerned about disruption to businesses during the construction period, loss of lettable commercial space to accommodate these links, and also potential diversions of customers to adjacent buildings.
There are no plans to develop Pulau Ubin, and the island will be kept in its rustic state for as long as possible, says Senior Parliamentary Secretary for National Development Maliki Osman. He said the island is meant as an outdoor playground for Singaporeans and not so much as a tourist destination. Dr. Maliki's clarification follows confusion caused in March when authorities sent a notice to 22 Ubin residents saying their homes were slated for clearance for the development of an adventure park. This actually referred to old plans made in 1993, which later became plans for the island's campsites, cycling and hiking trails today. Dr. Maliki said the Singapore Land Authority and HDB have apologized for the poorly worded notices. The letters were in fact meant to notify the households of a survey to determine their resettlement benefits from earlier land acquisition exercises.
How can such a notice go out, phrased in such a way that gives the wrong impression that it would be an eviction notice and that mentions an adventure park to be developed when it is not so? Is there a process and a system in place to vet important notices that go out to residents, especially those which are potentially sensitive and distressing?
We acknowledge that we could have done better in terms of the communication. And I think we've put in place and rectified the processes to make sure that it doesn't happen again. We take the interests of the residents very closely to our hearts. I say that because I'm also the local MP for Pulau Ubin. So I meet the residents as regularly as I can also.
Transport Minister Louis Tak Yew says completion of the downtown MRT Line 2 will be delayed and there will be additional costs incurred as well because a key contractor, Alpine Baey, went bust last month. The Austrian builder was working on 3 stations, King Albert Park, 6th Avenue and Tan Kah Kee, which serve a number of schools.
My concern is the amount of students and parents who would have relied or put in their plans the fact that they could be sending their children to school via the MRT and thereby alleviating the Bukit Timah corridor of traffic congestion.
I have, believe me, great interest to make sure that any delay is kept to the minimum possible because we know it affects the residents, we know it affects the students. We want to reinstate Bukit Timah and Danyan roads as quickly as possible, and therefore LTA is looking at all means available to it to keep the disruption to the minimum and the delay to as short a time as possible.
Parliament has adjourned. Good night.